Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and this is the second episode. I think I'm going to be calling it episode 520B because this is the continuation, obviously, of the podcast before this one, where Fr3deR1cK Taylor and I are shooting the shit. This is technically Jeff. Oh, what am I saying? My name never comes first. Fr3deR1cK and Jeff shoot the shit. Part 5, episode B, because you got to go from numbers to letters. All right, here's where we pick up. My heart goes out to all the creatives because I always say, like, I do this podcast and pull the young filmmakers into this room to talk about what they're doing because I'm like, I know you don't get the respect you deserve, and this is my chance to give it to you.
Right. And that is a wonderful, amazing gift that will keep giving throughout time and space. But I do think it's important to figure out how to monetize it.
How to get their shit out there.
Yeah, because you want people to know, and not only in this market, but global markets as well. How do you make all of this work? And so you've said it yourself. Your festivals are doing well. Lean into your festivals. Make everything work or springboard off of the festivals.
Yeah, lean into the strength.
Me too,
yeah.
Exactly. And so it's helped me to get, one, stay sane, and two, not to walk around hemorrhaging, financially as well. Because, like I said, there's a certain number of people that I know that I've worked with in the past on some things that were really important films that once society got a little bit uncomfortable, they all ran for the hills, and they're not returning my calls anymore. They're not returning my texts anymore. And that's sad and that's hurtful. And these are the same people that are like, oh, I love you. You're the best. You're the greatest. Blah, blah. Everybody's good when things are good. Things get bad and the shooting starts. People duck down in the foxhole and won't come out. They live scared.
It kills me because they also are reading the room wrong. They're wrong. That last, what they think was a turn against woke, which to me is a good thing because it means you're awake.
I
right?
understand that.
Being awake, they think it was a turn against that, but it was not.
Right.
It was the last mistake of the baby boom.
Right.
Of as we discussed, a gentleman who ran for president and said, I'm only going to do 4 years and I'm out. And that really, the result, if anything, showed how unpowerful the side that won was, because they nearly lost even though the other side shat the bed repeatedly. Right. You know what I mean? Like it literally is like, it would be well, we both like basketball, but the year that the Lakers had Shaq, Kobe, Malone, and Peyton. But Malone and Peyton were both fucked up. They were injured in the finals, and then Detroit managed to beat them. And Detroit's like, we're the best in the world. I'm like, there's an asterisk, my friends, because half of the Lakers players were playing hurt. So you won, but this doesn't mean you're the best team in the world. And like, they won in November, but that's because the Democratic Party under Biden's leadership was
exactly
a disaster.
And it's unfortunate that our society is running and working the same way that sports and athletics does.
Yeah.
Because sports and athletics pales in comparison to the importance of politics. But yeah, we've turned politics into a competitive circus. And that's a problem. Actually,
I always thought that was one of the problems with the two-party system was not everyone, but a lot of people, probably a majority of people, it's almost like rooting for a team. And they don't even care about the policies. No. They care. I identify with this party, right, and therefore I will support whatever asshole.
Right.
Instead of being like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
That person doesn't represent my beliefs at all.
Right. But now the Republicans and the Democrats are fighting in the stands, too. And the Republicans are pouring beer on the top of the heads of the Democrats and punching them in the face.
Yeah. And they're saying, we kicked your ass, we have a mandate. Yeah. And it's like, and Democrats are like, well, I don't think so. I don't know what to do. I know I'll wave my cane. I don't know. It's like there's no leadership. And I guess human beings need a leader.
We always need a leader. That's the whole point. And within the pantheon of religious order, that's why God sent his son down here, because we needed leadership. That's what that was about.
Yeah.
You know?
That Jewish concept was too, God was a little too far away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's too esoteric.
Right. And we've obsessed about it ever since. We need someone in place to guide us, to lead us, whomever that is. And that person doesn't necessarily always have to be good. That person just has to be charismatic and be willing to take the wheel. We are very into people that will just take control. They like it. I was talking to one of my friends today, one of my female friends, and we're talking about men. And she was saying how she just likes it when she likes guys that aren't nice, guys that take control. She's like, she'd recently gone to Las Vegas with a friend, and she's like, oh, the only guys that come up and talk to me were the nice guys. And I'm like, isn't that what you want? She's like, no, I want someone that's just going to kind of take control and be a little bit more of an a-hole. Yeah. Yeah. I hate...
She's self-aware and honest.
Yeah, and, and continues to be a little sad, too. It's like in trying to figure out what life is really all about and what relationships are really all about and what really matters and what's really important, too. And her self-esteem is built around it as well. And she's thinking, well, what's the matter? I'm not pretty enough? Or, I'm not pretty enough for guys to treat me like shit in order for me to be kind of turned on by them. It's crazy. It's absolute lunacy. It's lunacy. And, do we really want to participate in that kind of world? No, we don't. We want to elevate and get to another level or a higher level of consciousness. We want that third eye, but nobody's having it. They're just like, nah, it's good down here. Let's just stay low, keep low end theory. Why should we try to be better or do more? And so,
But the answer is because you are actually unhappy. And if you make things better, you'll be happier. I mean, right? That's the actual reason.
Yeah, but a lot of people that don't want to get to the higher levels, they're still really unhappy. They're unhappy people. I mean, we did a documentary. We just went out to all of these rural areas where these people voted for Trump, and we just were like, "Are you happy? How's it going? You doing okay? How's that gout?"
Are you happy that with the tariffs that come and go come for 2 days and go away for 2 days and really affect your business?
Do you have a general practitioner? You know what I mean?
If you need a doctor, can you get to one?
Yeah, exactly. Like, are they really happy? I don't think so. No one's really been able to convince me that is on the Trumpian side that comes from these, rural areas, or even the people that are like the sellouts from the urban areas that are like Trumper thumpers. Nobody seems happy. I don't get it. They don't seem very happy. And one of the things I've noticed with the progressives, it's like the ones that do get out there, they do believe in something, they do try to fight, they did vote or whatever. They're very sad, they're very frustrated, but like when they get around each other, their spirits are lifted. They get excited. They get some hope. They get a little skip in their step as well. There's a very strong support system that is starting to bloom in our society on the progressive side that the conservatives know nothing about, and it's called love. Real love. Because real love is accepting other people as they are, and real love is accepting yourself as yourself. And that is something that they tell themselves that they have, but they have a very difficult time demonstrating it.
I think you absolutely nailed it.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, because when you do have love for others,
Oh, yeah.
then you are forced to care about certain
Sure.
things. And the lack of love
Right.
for others,
Right.
I think it's pretty clear that if all your relationships are transactional,
Right.
you actually don't care and love these people.
Nope.
They're only good to you when you can transact with them successfully. In fact, your own children are only of value to you if they can help you with your personal aims. And if they
Right.
step out of line, I do recall a story when, DT Jr. Came to his father at one point and said, I'm going to enlist in the Army right after college and do a little Army time, which actually would have looked great on a resume or whatever. And he said, if you join the Army, you're dead to me. Like I will defund you. You're out of the will, so to speak, if you do that. So he didn't. He wanted to do something meaningful in his life. And it's like, no, you have to be my peon. You have to be my whatever, a peon. You have to be my serf. And that's how you'll have value to me. And then I'll make sure that you have enough money to have a wife who doesn't love you like mine doesn't love me. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no love over there.
No.
Just transactions.
Completely.
And it doesn't work long term.
It never does. It never has. I mean, have you seen the film Citizen Kane? That guy dies talking about his sled, alone, about his stupid sled, Rosebud, that then is thrown into a fire and no one knows who he really was. So he's lived and died, not actually having lived. He's accumulated all of this material wealth, but what's it worth within the framework of never finding your soul? That's the world we're living in now, where people are telling you, give up your soul for these riches that are coming as soon as we get on the other side of the tariffs. Our economy is going to come back. It's going to be so amazing. It's wonderful. It's all going to be, products that are made here, made in America. And anybody that's going to try to bring stuff into our country, we're going to make a bunch of money off of them. What?
Yeah, it's not going to happen anyway.
Not going to happen. That ship
it's all
has
a
sailed,
bluff.
buddy. Has sailed. This is not the days of high cotton in the South, okay? Get the fuck out of here. They're crazy. They're completely and totally delusional. At the same time, we sell guns to these crazy
regimes.
cartel regimes in Latin America. We sell them. They come across the border, go to Iowa, buy a bunch of guns, and go back and then take these guns and fucking kill their own people and fucking shoot at us. We're nuts. We're absolutely nuts. We don't want to talk about that. You can't get any of these rednecks to discuss that particular aspect of it. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about, is the University of Alabama going to beat the University of Georgia this year? They're loons. They're total loons. And I love the fact that I endlessly make them uncomfortable just by standing there. Just by opening my mouth, just by talking. Are they trying to shrink my footprint systemically in Atlanta? Absolutely. Are they succeeding? In a manner of speaking, they are. Do they realize and understand that I'm pivoting? No, because they're not paying any attention to me, and I'm just circling around, and I'm going to get them, from the rear. And that's on them. Because you know what? I'm not saying that I'm smarter than them, but I have a very strong sensibility about surviving, and I do honestly feel that I have something to say, and I am a part of this universe, and I'm not going to be beholden to any human being. I want to be equal partner to all people. And I offer that to them, so therefore I would like it as well. Thank you very much. If you have a problem with that, go fuck yourself.
So in Atlanta, I'm always curious about this because your main city is so different, or not that different, but
It's different from
so
LA.
is there? Well, but there's a great difference between local leadership, right, and
Yes.
and power centers, and statewide.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like palpable, right? Whereas obviously where I am, the dude in Sacramento and the mayor and the governor are like on the same page here.
Right. Not in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Not in Georgia.
Even though every once in a while Stacey Abrams pulls something off.
Yeah, but they hate Stacey Abrams, and as you know, the president of the United States brought her up in his address a week and a half ago as well, called her by name. He hates her.
Well, she's an actual threat.
She's a real threat. She's a real threat. Absolutely. You know. So there is a rumor that Keisha Lance Bottoms is going to run for governor in Georgia. And she is an extension of Stacey Abrams. So that might happen. She might win, you know? And she is a elite black person. You know, her father was a music artist by the name of Major Lance. He was 1/3 of the Impressions with Jerry Butler and Curtis Mayfield. So she's a star. She's the kid of someone that made it big in business and in the entertainment business. She does not know what it means to be marginalized, and it might be the type of leadership that is necessary. She's also adorable and cute as a button, too, which helps. You never know. She might steal the state away from the Republicans. I hope so. You know?
Yeah, because aren't both senators? I'm forgetting.
Yeah, they're all white, and then the Congress people are Jewish and black. You know, Ossoff and Warnock.
Ossoff and Warnock.
And there hasn't been a white mayor in Atlanta since before 1973. So Maynard Jackson, and then a bunch of black guys, and a woman in there too. Shirley Franklin was mayor, and then Keisha Lance Bottoms was mayor too. So, amen.
So there's a chance.
Yes.
You can see possibility.
There is possibilities, but it's going to be because people stand up and fight. It's not going to automatically happen.
And there are no wins because after every win, the other side will double down.
Exactly. And so everybody's got to show up, and we can't play injured. We all got to be ready to go if we're going to win this game. You know. That's going to be really important. And for me, as, you know, a filmmaker and as someone who is on the side of social justice, I got to see if I'm going to be a part of that. You know, how do I, you know, factor myself into that equation? Where am I going to have the most impact? Am I going to have the most impact in Georgia? Am I going to have the most impact back in California or maybe in New York or Chicago or beyond? I don't know. Now, all of my friends out here in LA want me to move back to LA because, you know, they love me. And this is great. And it is more interesting and it is more relaxed out here. And I feel more a part of things. And, you know, you hear all of these different languages flying around and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool. And there are a lot of people that look like me or are some sort of derivative of me in comparison to white people. And it's very comfortable. And I like that, you know. And it's easy to get lost out here and not get anything done, too. You know, and so many people out here just want me to work with them on their projects, and they've got this idea, and I just would love to have you around for all this other stuff. And that's one of the problems out here. People aren't asking me what I'm doing or what I'm working on. They got their own little ideas, and they're trying to sucker me back in again to work on their shit because I have a very talented skill set, and they know it. But they're not asking me what I'm doing.
All right, so what?
You know, so, and I'm kind of into what I'm doing right now. You know, I'm not into what everybody else is doing.
And would a move like that feel like? Would it feel like stepping out of the ring a little bit?
To come back here?
Yeah,
absolutely, without question.
Yeah, because you're in the ring. You've got the gloves on.
Sure. But people want me to come out here, become a professor over at UCLA, and then do all of my film work on the side and work with them. You know, that's nice, but that's not really what I'm about. And I do feel as though the fight is back in the South. There's no question about it. And
It always has been.
it always has been.
It's been a long...
Right. And guys like me 100 years ago, 150 years ago, they lynched. And I feel good about that. I make people uncomfortable there. Are there areas or spaces that I'm banned in or that I haven't been permitted to navigate the way that I want to? Absolutely. Have I pivoted and created even more strategic partnerships with other communities of people? Some of them Jewish. Yes. And they've, very quietly have helped me to get into some spaces to continue to move forward. I'm getting meetings because of some of my Jewish friends. They're making phone calls for me, and I'm having lunches, I'm having dinners, and, things are being arranged because people in that community want me to survive. I'm getting that there. I'm not getting that in the same way here. I get support here. I get we love you and this is really great. But there, they're like, listen, let me get you in the room with a guy that can write you a check or push this particular objective that you have down the road.
Yeah, because they're aware of the fight.
Absolutely.
Whereas here, they probably...
They're a little
less
soft.
aware.
They're a little soft.
We are soft because...
They take the time.
Well, when you live in a bubble, it's pretty easy just to look at the reflection in that soap.
I get it. And this is and I'm not criticizing the Jewish community at all, but this is the only place where they get off the gas. This is the only place where they get out of the fast lane and they'll get in the slow lane and they'll kind of get in cruise control. They're like, oh, things are nice. And they roll down the windows and just take in the sights.
A little bit, that's for sure.
Exactly.
No.
And I love Jewish people, and it's the only time.
Wait, in New York, they feel like they run that town, don't they?
They run it.
They do.
They run it. What are you talking about? They run it. Exactly. Here, not so much. They're just kind of hanging, They're looking for pretty blonde girls to hang out with. It's a different vibe. Now, they're very celebratory. They're cool to be around. They're your buddies. They're your friends. We talk a little music. We go to dinner, lunch. We go to the beach, blah, blah, blah. But when it's brass tacks, we got to get this done. We got to get this out the door. We got to make this happen. Push, 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 push. They're like, wait a minute. We're not ready for that. Or maybe slow down for a little bit. Let's just relax for a second. It'll be okay or whatever. It's like tick-tock. They don't understand clock's ticking. And I don't understand why... some of the people that are out here that are within the community of the Jewish American influencers out here, they're not looking at the clock. We're all on the clock and they're not paying enough attention to what's going on around them, because they're too caught up in just having a really good time.
They're comfortable.
And it's the only place in the world where I've seen Jews comfortable. And I've been all over the world, and there are Jews all over the world, the same way there are black people all over the world. You know what I mean? Everywhere you go, you'll trip over a black person or a Jew. This is the only place they get comfortable. And I'm like, holy shit, what's wrong with you guys? They're kind of, it's kind of nice, don't you think?
Right. They just want you to come here and be comfortable too.
Yeah, and hang out with them and we'll talk about some old soul music and shit like that. They love that. They love talking about black history. It's fun for them. It's invigorating. They identify. It
is interesting because your heart can be in the right place and you can still fail by lack of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember you like basketball. It's just with defense. To play defense requires energy. The theory is anybody can play defense in basketball. Anybody with energy. Not everybody can play offense. Not everybody can be great at offense. Dennis Rodman was a terrible offensive player, but one of the greatest defensive players of all time. And a lot of energy can keep you on the court. And a lot of energy can make you an impactful player. And we're not getting the kind of energy that we need to make all of this happen. It's not happening. And I do have a problem with a lot of the people that work in the industry out here. They're not really putting the energy in. They're not really putting in the time. They're not making the effort. The people that are at the top that have the real influences that can actually make things happen, you know, within the music industry and the film industry and the television industry and the streaming industry and the social media, all that stuff on an independent level, they're not doing it. They're just kind of like, we're hanging back here. And I don't know why, because this is the entertainment capital of the world, and they're not acting like it.
Well, you said independent level, and that's, I think, the problem here is that, you know, I mean, people say, oh, what is the question? Like they ask about the film festivals, like, well, so what kind of films? And when you say independent,
it's a bad word.
Yeah, it's
they don't want to hear that. They want to hear stars. Who are the stars? Who's coming?
Or it'd be more successful if it was an ethnic group,
right.
or a sexual preference group,
right.
or something identity,
gimmicky, something marketable. It's
just saying it's the next generation's work that will replace you someday. They don't like that.
Nope.
Because although that is one of the funny ironies I became more aware of in the last year, because I frequently rail against the kind of work that comes out of the industry and praise the work that comes from independent artists.
Right.
And then I am aware that, like, as I'm saying this, the independent artist in front of me is thinking, well, I want a 5-picture deal. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like their goal is to work in the industry.
Completely.
Their goal isn't to, I don't know, maybe some of them think they want to be the next Duplass brothers or something, where you have some success and then you use it to stay independent and like sort of have feet in both worlds.
There's not a lot of them.
But that just looks cool.
Yeah, and what they want the big money. They want the house in the hills. They want to be able to party. They want to be able to hang out.
They want people to know who they are.
And they want people to know who they are, and they want to be written about in all of these like entertainment rags.
Yeah, so even though I am championing their work today,
right,
I realize my words probably sound nice to them, but don't resonate.
In the moment. It's in the moment. It's what they're doing today, but that could change by next Thursday. But that's how they're rolling, but they're not going to get anywhere because they're not paying any attention. And if they were, they would see how much the music business has collapsed in the past 25 years with the same type of attitude. And that's where they're all heading. They're heading
because they
the
don't
scrap
know.
Heap. They'll be scuffling like Oasis, you know, and all of these other music entities that were so hot 15, 20, 25 years ago that now are just like hot garbage. That's where you'll be, you know, and that includes people like Jordan Peele and Greta Gerwig or whatever. Get the fuck on with it. Make something else. Keep going. Push yourself, you know, have the successes, have the failures, but keep pushing the narrative. But keep doing things that are meaningful and purposeful. They're two of the most important filmmakers in Hollywood right now. They're not working hard, in my opinion, based on the output. Maybe they are working really hard behind the scenes. I don't know. But I'm not seeing enough results as far as putting stuff out there. I don't expect every film that Jordan Peele makes that's going to earn the money that Get Out did. And I don't expect every film that Greta Gerwig makes to make what Barbie made. But I expect them to work, and I expect them to also bring other people into the mix and support other filmmakers and make those people successful as well. I only believe in the Berry Gordy effect. We need the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Supremes, Mary Wells, Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. We need them all.
You need a stable. You need breadth.
And there's a breadth that's here. No one's using it. No one's doing it. If I had all the money in the world, I would just literally come in and I'd start hand-picking people. I'd go to you and I'd say, okay, who at the festival this year was amazing? Send them over to me. And I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk to them and say, okay, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? And out of that, 2 or 3 are going to be like, I got this script, I got this is pretty good. Okay, that's great. Let's go with that. See what happens. Put it out there. Make it happen. Be the super producer that makes it happen. And eventually you'll stumble into an opportunity like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and then there you are, and you've got an Oscar for Best Picture. But you've got to take those chances and those risks to make it happen, and people just are not doing that with great story. And there's so much great story that's out there now that comes from every culture and every walk of life, and within the political ranks and far outside of it too. People are just scared. They're just living scared all the time. And it doesn't take a lot. The tech is, this is a film, festival curator. You don't even need a lot. I mean, come on. Like, you can get a DSLR or a freaking iPhone or whatever. You can go out and make something pretty good. The tech is there. Like, back in the day, they had independent film, but it was like independent film, and you had to figure out how to get film. And so it was still really hard, and it was still kind of really expensive. But you had to be really, really focused. Now, the tech is right. It's sitting there staring you in the face. And we make shittier independent stuff now than we did then. And we have better resources now. But everybody's fucking lazier now. And everybody just wants to be a star and, get their back waxed. They're worried more about their looks than anything.
I do. I clearly can't ask this of people, but it does beg the question that, like, every filmmaker I meet,
right.
Do you want to make great films, or do you want to be rich and well known?
You can have both.
You can.
But you've got to walk the path. You have to walk the path to find your way to your ultimate goal. It's a very Eastern way of thinking. It's a very Jewish way of thinking. It's a very African way of thinking. It's a very old world indigenous way of thinking. Walk the fucking path, shut the fuck up, and you'll get there. Because if you're standing around waiting to cheat the game to get there because you want to go to one of Puff Daddy's freak-offs in order to connect with the right people that are going to move your career along, you're sorely mistaken.
He'll get a pardon, right?
No. He's not gonna
Doesn't Trump want to pardon everybody who...
he might, though. I mean, if Puffy's got something on him, he'll pardon him. They're both from New York. They're clowns.
Well, no,
I don't know. Maybe.
They like sexually abusing people.
They do. They do.
Apparently.
They
apparently.
Do.
So, from one abuser to another. Oh, my God.
It's insane. Like, how do you abuse on that level? I mean, that's a lot of time for abuse. It's like you wake up in the morning.
It's like a job.
Exactly. I'm going to have a breakfast sandwich and I'm going to go abuse somebody. What are you going to do for lunch? Well, I'm thinking about like some pasta and then I'm going to go abuse somebody.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm going to create a situation where all these people are going to come over tonight and we'll see just how badly we treat them. Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. It's weird. I don't understand it. It's not me. It's not what I'm about. But for some of these people, it is what they are about. And that's between them and their God, and good luck with that. But I don't want to go out like that because I don't want to be abused like that, and I don't have it in me. I don't have it in my heart. I want to uplift people, and I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in uplifting people because occasionally you see it with some great films or some great music or a great limited series or television show or whatever. I'm very curious to see how when The Handmaid's Tale gets released in May, how they handle this final season based on everything that's going on in the world. This entire breadth of show has run parallel to the Trumpian, canon. It's going to be interesting to see how it all ties together in the end, too. And literally, I know people that are saying, I can't wait for this series to come out because I hope it really makes a statement about what's going on in society. And I'm like, what are you doing? The statement that you want to be made about society is the one that you're going to make, not some TV show. Really? You're waiting on a TV show to tell you what to do? That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
Should I use the words TV show to segue?
Yeah.
To the TV you and I grew up on?
Absolutely.
Is it worth it?
Yes, it is.
It would be a nice change of pace.
It would be.
It'd feel good.
Feels great.
Los Angeles de Carlos. I believe that was the version I watched on Spanish language TV in Los Angeles.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Or should Charlie be Carlito?
I think it would be Carlito.
Because Carlos is
Carlito.
Charles. Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know. Before we started recording, we were talking about growing up on Charlie's Angels,
Right.
and what it did to our brains.
I know. It just sets you in a certain space that you'll just never...
Fuck! I
you'll
keep
never forget.
banging my knee into
Because
the table.
it's Charlie's Angels and you're getting excited.
It's
You're thinking about Jacqueline, a young Jacqueline Sloan.
it was. I understand why men my age and but boy, the men older than me I talk to, I'm like,
They're
wow,
weird. The men older than us are weird.
They
make me uncomfortable.
It's so
They like
uncomfortable.
strange things. I don't understand them.
When I've had friends say things like, when Scarlett Johansson's hair is done like X, she's okay. When her hair is in that film, she's not.
They're abusive. Yeah, they're basically Jimmy Stewart and Vertigo. Yes,
Yeah,
I get it.
They're literally
yeah,
saying
I
like,
know.
and I go, well, there's value beyond her appearance. Actually, I love, that's my go-to. And they go, well, but the job is to be like for me to find her attractive. Like they literally are like, her job is for me to find her attractive.
That is so incredibly antiquated 19th century.
Isn't it?
And archaic and paternal and weird and sexist and juvenile and just downright
sexist.
creepy.
And basically, it's the most sexist thing to me because it is
Absolutely.
literally saying that person's value
Right.
isn't even their appearance, it's what I think of it.
Exactly.
And it drives me nuts. And
Right.
and so, and as I was telling you earlier, before we started recording, how, I find younger males in our culture to be a little less like
Soft.
this.
They're soft.
They're soft.
You have to
I try to
come
think them
terms
as
with
good
those.
humans, but
No,
But
they're not.
you-
They're not.
you
They're
always
not. They're
disavow
not
me
good.
of this.
No, they're not. It's like when you hear about these shootings, and in many instances, who are the perpetrators? They're young men,
They're
young
young-
men. Sad young men.
incels.
And it's hard. It's heartbreaking, and I don't understand a lot of these men, today in the modern world. And they're not all bad, of course. There's some good guys out there, but there also are some weenies.
I have nieces in their 20s who tell me there are no good men.
They're
and,
right.
And I often
tease
and
the
I
other
and I
girls
try to
around,
say like
they're not. There
maybe
aren't.
you're going for the assholes and there's a couple good guys who don't show up.
They are right, and I have come around to them. I hear their cries.
You've come
now,
around.
and I say to them, "You guys are right. You're right. I see it
Yeah.
now." Because I have these young men that are around me, and we're working on set, and they're like, "You can't even get them to pick up a sandbag, move a C-stand, run some cable."
Right, so there's that problem.
They're lazy.
Because I
they're
wonder if the
soft.
problem is like, look, if 13-year-old Jeff had access to the internet and the filth on there, how corrupted would my brain have become?
First of all, your eyes would be crossed. Number one, you would have hair in your palms.
I might be blind. Yes,
you would be
yes.
blind with hair in your palms. You would be crazy. Absolutely, but that's why you were.
No, but I was, the bra ads in the back of Cosmopolitan
They
might
did.
have been objectifying, but it didn't demean women the way
Right.
that porn does.
I remember going to my aunt's house because my aunt had a subscription to Jet magazine, and each month they had the Jet Beauty. And I remember going and looking for the Jet magazines and opening it up to the page where they had the Jet Beauty of the month. That was it. That was my thing. I loved that. That's how I love women. I know. Mom, I'm not gay. I know it in my heart. I'm not gay. Great. More power to me. But that was a special time in your
for the thing we
appreciation.
didn't choose.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But you had a certain level of, I think, respect for women, or you perceived them as something.
It
as
was
an
respect.
entity.
It was
They were
respect.
a very positively charged entity. I liked women. I loved Barbara Walters. I loved Diane Sawyer. I loved powerful women as well. I loved Donna Summer. I thought Aretha Franklin was cool. I loved women that could just step out. Annie Lennox. I was like, that's
by
my
college,
bitch.
I had a big ass crush on Gloria Steinem.
You're weird.
No, she's beautiful.
I know she is. I know. I'm teasing
Beautiful.
you. I did too. She totally.
She did.
No, I mean, I had
Not just the Playboy era, but yeah.
Yeah, but she was hot. And she's still an incredibly dynamic person. I mean, I had in my dorm room, I had Iman, Sheila E., and Whitney Houston were my posters. That was my trifecta. They were all amazing women that did something significant with their lives and themselves as well. And they're, will always be remembered too. And Sheila E. is still out there doing it and playing, and Iman is still around as the wife of David Bowie, which is, pretty amazing. And she was a tremendous model in her own right, too. And the linchpin for all black models that came after that. And now I would say almost all models say, she's my North Star. I want to be like Iman. It's just a standard that she brought to the industry as well. And for Whitney, it just ended tragically. Because of some poor life choices. But if she hadn't made those choices, she would be, having residency at Caesar's Palace, making all kinds of money. So,
As she should well above.
Yeah,
Celine
she would have gotten
Dion,
to the end of time. Yeah, exactly. She was on the Barbra Streisand track. She was going to be a goddess
absolutely,
forever.
absolutely.
Yeah, she just and once again she just got around the wrong guy. And that's one of the problems with these men of today. They're soft, they're users. They want women to carry them. Like, I listen to these guys talk. They're like, oh, I just want to find an older woman that's going to take care of me. I want a sugar mama. I want someone to take care of me. They don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to be men. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They don't have the same concerns about.
You're not supposed to want to retire till you're like 70 something.
I know, but they want to retire like 28, 29. Yeah. Like, they don't want to do anything. It's crazy. They're so lazy. They show up to work or to set late, and they don't feel any sense of duty or honor or whatever. They don't like to lift heavy things. The girls are tougher. All the guys have worked their way out of my camera department. I don't even hire guys in my camera department anymore. Hire women. Women are stronger, smarter, more aware, more thorough, more thoughtful, tougher. It's not even close. It's not even close. I rarely meet a man anymore that's heterosexual that I respect. Rare. That I'm like, wow, you're a good dude. Nice to meet you. Here's my card. Let's stay in touch. Now and then.
Especially when they're younger, you're saying.
Oh, when they're
that
younger.
generation. You're talking about younger generation,
guys,
yeah.
It's fine. But then younger guys, I'm like, come back when you get older, because like you're just a marshmallow, and I don't have time for it. They don't care. They don't care. They don't work hard. They don't care. They cheat all the time. Like, they're working in my office, and instead of learning how to do a particular task, they go look online for a plugin. They're lazy. They don't even want to light shots anymore. They just want to do everything digitally in post. And then when they write stories or make their little films, it's always like this angst against women, Oh my God, women are such bitches. And I think I might be gay. I'm not sure, but they're just like all over the place. They're all over the place. They're never focused. Not understanding. It doesn't matter if you're gay or you're straight or whatever. I don't understand why you're debating this. Tell a fucking story, please. And stop making things that are just like you're angry and you're pissed and you hate everybody and all of this other shit, but you still really like rap.
There's a lot of resentment.
Oh my God, just piles and piles and piles of it. And it's so boring, and they're just so into just the nastiness of our existence. And they think it's funny, and it's not funny. And the notion that we are moving into a space where everybody has a shot or a chance, they have a problem with it. Because they're not going to be first anymore. It's not going to be for them. It's for everyone. they're just boring. And so I just have very little respect for them. So going back to Charlie's Angels, that was a time and place and a space where you're like, wow, I love these women. They're smart, they're pretty, they're intelligent, they fight crime. And I think in a metaphorical sense, I think it was important that Charlie was only on the intercom. He wasn't in the room physically with his presence trying to make people do things. And then Bosley seemed kind of gay. That was just me.
He was harmless. He was not a sexual threat. Whereas Charlie, they always showed a cigar and a woman who was like, wasn't there normally like a little cheesecake next to him?
Yeah, but you never saw his face.
You never saw his face. So it was clear that he was having sex
he was doing the other thing.
with women who were fabulous.
Exactly.
But Bosley was not a sexual person.
He wasn't a predator. He wasn't bringing it upon,
In fact, Bosley probably, we looked right at him and said, oh, he's got a wife at home and 2 kids and just super calm. Like, no, he's, they have sex once a week and everything's fine.
He's just regular.
He's just blah.
He's just that guy. Right. Which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you had 3 different types of female personalities as well, from Kate Jackson to Farrah Fawcett to Jacqueline Smith. You had said earlier that, Jacqueline Smith was your number one.
I revealed that, yes.
That's your boo.
Well, because you threw, because, we were discussing other performers and if they came to my door, how it would react. I still think it would be Jack. Often your favorite music is the music you fell in love with at 12 or 13.
Absolutely.
And so, I would...
Jacqueline Smith, yeah.
Say Jacqueline Smith in her 70s is still for me. Yeah. Although,
But we did have a discussion about Kate Jackson.
That in retrospect, I go back and I'm like, why didn't my young pubescent brain get that? But I guess I didn't get the whole package. You need a certain amount of
maturity to be able to appreciate a powerful woman. Kate Jackson always came across as powerful. Looking back now, I'm like, wow, I really like Kate Jackson.
Yeah.
I loved who she was as a person or a personality or an entity and the characters that she played during that particular time. She was really interesting to me. And then Farrah was Farrah. Everybody loved Farrah. That was just the thing, she was just the runaway pinup star or whatever. And I totally get that.
She was the new Marilyn.
Exactly. And I totally get that. And I had no problem with it. And I liked her too. I think the one that sent me over the top was after Farrah left, Cheryl Ladd came on. And I'm going to send you a picture I found recently of Cheryl Ladd, young Cheryl Ladd. And I think she's at the beach in Venice and she's leaning over a surfboard. And it's like, oh my God, pictures to die for. I thought she was hot.
She was truly,
that was it. She was just hot. I mean, she's just super hot. She didn't necessarily grab me as far as her personality was concerned. She didn't do anything. Kate Jackson was kind of really cool. And, Jacqueline Smith was really, really pretty, but also very kinetic and active and, did all the funky action stuff as well. And I thought she was kind of neat as well. And she had throwback Hollywood looks. I mean, she looked like she could have been a starlet in the 40s or something like that as well. Kate Jackson was definitely more the modern woman. And like you said, Farrah was the Marilyn incarnation, that always lives on through Hollywood as well. So, which was cool. But, I liked Cheryl, and I liked Shelley Hack too. I mean, all of the
Shelley Hack, and then
there was the other one,
Tanya Roberts.
Who,
believe it or not, I've always had a.
Tanya Roberts was kind of hot.
She was kind of kidding. She might have been
right.
She was the tallest. She was a redhead.
Yeah, she was.
These are all good things.
I know. Thank you.
If one is being superficial,
but she didn't do anything. Like each time they replaced somebody,
the quality of the acting went down.
It just and it just really focused on Jacqueline and Kate hung in there through the entire series, so they became the stars. And
didn't Kate leave I thought like Jacqueline was the only one who stuck it all the way.
The whole time, but Kate might have left towards the end.
She left at some point because she was like, "This is beneath me."
Mrs. King, that's what she went on to do.
She did.
In the late '80s, yeah. So she had a whole nother universe that she evolved into as well. Yeah.
But the reason we brought it up was I was talking about how how I was trained to see women as objects by the media.
Sure. No, I agree. And so was I. And that was something that I had to work on more as an adult for me to have a functional relationship with a woman. I had to reprogram myself. And, to the dismay probably of a few different people that dated me, whom I humbly apologized to. I was going through some developmental issues at the time. I'm a better person now. But yeah, I just didn't know any better. And that made it very frustrating. And I think, for men at that particular time, the ones that had mentored us, they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to address it. They didn't know how to really talk about it or show any level of real appreciation for women, because they were walking around saying things like, oh, look at the knockers on that one, blah, blah, blah. And that sounded like vile behavior, but no one taught me how to appreciate women. I just knew Bo Derek was really hot, and I wanted to see that particular Playboy, or Vanessa Williams was really hot, and I wanted to see that particular penthouse or whatever. That was the era of the covers, and who was ever on those covers at that particular time, you had to see that issue. And whether you were going to sneak into a magazine store to see it or sneak over to your friend's house and look at it in the woods, that's what you did. Or you found one on your own and you're underneath your blanket at night with a flashlight looking at it. But we were just taught that, to just totally fixate on them as objects. And then Madonna caught us on the chin. She totally exploited that. She used us. She's like, okay, that's what you like? That's what I'm going to be. And she made and built an entire career off of it, which was amazing, which now on the back end has done her wrong. It's not sustainable in her 60s to continue to try to be that kind of person. You've watched people like J-Lo run out of gas as well.
Yeah, Madonna didn't evolve into. She could have. She could
have been amazing. I think she could have been unbelievably awesome and dynamic in her 60s, her 50s and 60s going into her 70s. She could have been the grande dame of the entertainment industry. But she chose to still compete and be a Pop-Tart with the young girls. And what the young girls do now is just crazy. Like a lot of them, the ones that are the pop princesses and stuff like that. It's too intense for me. Even I'm just like, I'm not really like it too much. It's not
I don't even know who they are.
They're not Dojo Cat.
That's
people like that.
I've heard that name.
Cardi B.
By the way, if you'd said to me Dojo Cat is a meme, I would have believed it was like a meme about a cat.
This is the best part
I know.
about you.
I'm so no, I mean I'm
sure.
I don't have the bandwidth to watch whatever popular culture that
it's
much.
hard because it's too big, it's too vast, it's too draining, it's too distracting. I like my pop culture the old-fashioned way, where it was just on one channel, and that was called MTV, and I could decide when I wanted to engage with it and then when I didn't want to engage with it.
Yeah, although every once in a while, so I'm aware. I actually had this discussion with someone. We talked about the history of the pinup, so to speak, and how the level of abuse they endure has been improving generation to generation. Mm-hmm. Because you had Marilyn, they raped the shit out of her, and she OD'd dealing with it. And then like Farrah, and then blah, 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 and then blah, blah, blah. And I have become aware of this Sydney Sweeney person.
Yes.
Like somehow she showed up on the HuffPost app, like news, whatever, So... Right. So is she the new Marilyn? Is she the new pinup?
I mean, no one can be the new Marilyn. It's impossible. That's like saying there's a new Prince or Michael Jackson or even a new Madonna. It's not going to work. It doesn't.
Right, because we're too segmented.
There's just certain people. There's only one and only. There's never going to be a new Jim Morrison. There's never going to be a new Elvis Presley or whatever. It doesn't work like that. You have to come up with something new, your own incarnation. The problem is that we don't create the environment for something new. There aren't new artists that are uniquely sustainable that are going to be here through time and space. I mean, people will argue with you that it's Taylor Swift. I don't get it. I don't see it. I mean, I think she's
They
fine as a pop artist.
but also and this is not, I don't mean this as negatively as it's going to sound, but like she seemed to make a get out the vote sort of effort that fell quite flat.
Well,
so she doesn't have influence beyond selling concert tickets.
Okay, here's the thing about it. Yeah, and I think that you're making a very valid point, but I don't think she tried hard enough with the get out the vote. I don't think she
did
hard
back
enough.
away from it, didn't she?
Yeah, she didn't go hard. Like she didn't just really get out there and really push it and come out on stage and really make a real statement and take a real position. She just kind of like
And they were afraid of her.
They were, but she didn't see that and go for it. She didn't go for the jugular. And that's one of my big beefs with some of these liberal celebrities that were allegedly supporting, Vice President Harris at the time. They didn't push hard enough for it. They just didn't say, we're going to make this happen. Hey, Beyonce, let's do a song together and put it out in support of the Harris campaign. Flood the airways with it. Be there at the convention and talk to people, shake hands, kiss babies, sing a couple songs, and get out there and fight. She didn't do that. Today's youth are afraid. They're afraid to do anything. They're afraid to say anything. In the past, artists did something, like Marlon Brando shows up at the March on Washington, D.C. in 1964, I think, to be supportive, along with Burt Lancaster, which I always thought was kind of weird. But my point is that they sacrificed the possibility of injuring their fame in order to stand up for something they believe in. And that's where I have a problem with Taylor. And I would like Taylor to explain it to me. And I think at times it comes out in her music. She gets about 75% there, and then it kind of like falls off a little bit. No, I need you to hit me hard. I need you to hit me, the way Joni Mitchell would hit me. Like I need to hear it. I need to feel it. I need you to push. I need to hear Respect by Aretha Franklin, that it's just no holds barred. And I don't think she makes no holds barred music. I think she could, but she doesn't. And, and I feel this, and people seem
and
to
she
like.
threatened to. Well, not on the music, but I remember seeing the video of her talking, I believe, to her management and parents. And it was a well-produced, it was probably scripted, but it was them saying, are you sure you want to do this get out the vote thing? And she said, yes, it's that important to me. But then it didn't go beyond that.
Exactly, but it doesn't matter whether it was scripted or not. It just looked like it was scripted. It's the sabermetric of it.
But it wasn't like, I support this person, and if you're my fan and I don't want you as a fan.
Exactly, and I would have wanted to have put that message out there, but I wouldn't have shot it the way that they shot it. Even if it may not have been scripted, it felt scripted, it looked scripted, I'd have scrapped it. I'd have said, here's a phone, go in the other room and say it, and then we're going to upload it. And that's going to be the end of it. She doesn't want to be raw. Why? I don't know. That is her choice. At least with Madonna, I'm going to come out there in a wedding dress and I'm going to roll around like a whore or a hoa, and sing like a virgin. There's a difference. Madonna took some real chances, that were like, might injure my fame or my career.
She was pushing an envelope at all times.
She was always pushing an envelope, and she didn't always know where that plane was going to land with that stuff. She lucked out, and many were successes, and some were some failures too, as well. I think that sex book thing she probably regrets, and she would probably want to take. And
the movie that was, for me, that was the.
Yeah, there's some weird,
the proverbial shark.
There's some weird stuff in there. But like Desperately Seeking Susan, when she was in that movie, she was great. Comedy was her lane. She didn't stick to that. And she translated her vampy pop style, translated into comedy on the big screen, and she didn't stick to that. She wanted to be dark and evil sexual in the movies, and it didn't work. It didn't work. That wasn't her deal. That was another lane that was suited for somebody else that was a little bit more interesting in that space.
Well, and really that whole sex, when there was a book and it was just a book and a movie, or was it a book, movie, and album? I can't remember.
I remember the book.
Definitely a book and a movie.
Well, there was a
documentary.
I don't know if the documentary was about sex.
I thought the name of the documentary was like
Truth or Dare.
Oh, Truth or Dare,
which was a great documentary about following a pop artist around. It's
Yeah.
a very, very well produced documentary that's exquisite and beautiful and awesome.
But I recall finding it thoroughly boring.
It was, but it was still
because at that point
thoroughly
she
produced and
didn't-
exquisite.
Sure.
I mean, it's a timepiece. Like when she's gone, people are going to go back and look at Truth or Dare, and they're going to remember it or feel it as this ground thing that has all of her favorite music.
See,
in
for me,
It's
showed
height of her
it
looks.
showed the lack of substance under it all.
I know that, but look, the world's
Yeah.
trending towards a lack of substance. It's going to mean more later. It was ahead of its time. She made a Taylor Swift documentary before Taylor Swift.
I suppose.
Yeah, which is, I think if she had done something that took more chances in that space, I think it would have served her well. I think if you asked her now, she would say, yeah, I should have just been able to get deeper. There's probably a lot of footage that was cut out of it that they should probably go back in and re-edit Truth or Dare, and then reissue it and put it on Netflix as a limited series, and it would probably do a lot better, But she doesn't want to be that person anymore, or for you to see her as that person anymore. She wants you to see her as this other bizarre incarnation that's got a lot of fillers in her face and stuff like that.
I
all of
know.
her appeal is gone. As a young kid, I mean, I thought she was really cool. I thought she was,
She was cool.
she was cool, and
She was cool.
and she competed in the urban space. I remember going into record stores as a kid, and I'm going in and I'm buying an LL Cool J album, and at the same time, there is Madonna. And I'm like, wow, Madonna's in the black record store.
Yeah, and she was just a little punk in the beginning.
And I who doesn't like
Little new wave, a little
punk,
this.
Yeah, a little new
Yeah.
wave, a little punky. I mean, that was my kind of chick.
A little bit of everything,
back
yeah.
in the day, without question, and she abandoned that particular attitude, moving forward. She wanted to be more, I guess, glam, or just sort of
just
the
huge, right? Like the
huge,
goal was
angry
hugeness.
elite, huge
Yeah.
angry elite, which
Just,
is a weird
I need
mix.
to be the most famous person in the world.
Right, but then also the most finger pointy and bossy and all this other stuff, and it doesn't work because I think the more you become famous, the more you need to shut the fuck up. And a lot of people that are famous don't understand that. Your power is in shutting the fuck up. Stop chirping so much.
Right. Picking and choosing.
Right, exactly.
Meeting it out.
Right. But, Taylor is going to, I mean, I don't know, like the way that it'll be interesting to see this young crowd that's with her, that's been with her for the past 10, 15 years, like how they mature and grow into middle age. Will they still be there for her, support her? Is she going to abandon them and try to find a younger crowd, or finally kick it up a notch and go to the older crowd, the same way that Linda Ronstadt did in the 80s. And she started working with Nelson Riddle, and she started singing the Great American Songbook. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, Linda Ronstadt's pretty cool. And then she started singing with the Neville Brothers. You're like, oh, wow, she became interesting. And she anchored herself in the generation before her, rather than trying to maintain with her rocker generation, which was violently fading out in the 80s. And she was too old to just sit around and be super cute, And to me, she's eternally adorable, But at the same time, too, she's allowed herself to grow. And she grew again. And then she started singing Spanish language albums as well. And I really admire her and respect her. And I think that is the trajectory of a great artist, that they keep evolving throughout space and time. And I just don't see that for Taylor Swift presently. It could change. She could figure it out. I mean, I think that Beyonce has made more interesting pivots. Cowboy Carter became, country album of the year, won the Grammy for that. Now, other country people hate her and hate that album, and it got no nominations at the Country Music Awards, but that's just flat out racism. Now, they say that it's not, but it feels like it. And that's what people don't understand. It's the optics of things. Perception's 9/10 of the law. Okay, maybe it's not really racism, guys. We just don't appreciate her music or the style in which she did it, and she's not a part of the Nashville community, and we don't want to give her any attention. Okay, don't, but you're going to look like a racist. So what you should probably do is give her a little bit of attention so you don't look like a racist, because the outcome of looking like a racist is worse than trying to hold on to this ideology of this puritanical view of what a country music artist is and how a black person imports themselves into your genre that was partially invented by black people. Let's not get this
Partially?
Mostly. I'm trying to be kind here.
You're being kind.
Because we're slipping out of black history. It's harder and harder to argue with people about the validity of blacks as it pertains to history. More and more, people are trying to erase it. So if you say black people were very instrumental in creating country music and rock and roll and blues and all this other stuff, you get pushback. People argue. That's crazy. You know what I mean? It is absolutely just like they're robbing you of the fact that Jesus was a Jew. I know Christians who sit there and they say Jesus was not a Jew. And I'm like, you're one of the most dumbass Christians I've ever met in my life. That is an insult to Jews the world over for you to say that. That is disrespectful. But that's what they're doing. They want to erase history. They want to erase the fact that the Chinese were very much directly responsible for building the railroads in this country as well. They want to erase the fact that these people that they don't want to cross over the Rio Grande are indigenous people to this land. The Mexican is some weird thing the Spaniards thought up in order to compartmentalize these people. They are indigenous people that were forced to get rid of their own religion and their own cultures and accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, become fucking Catholic, and change their names from Running Water to Rodriguez. But we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to deal with that. And then they have all of these people of color programmed to not even push back, fight back, or say anything about it. Let's just all live in love and harmony and we'll all be okay. If we just treat each other good, it'll all work out in the end. No, it won't. And you know what that ends up. They're like, get on the fucking train and shut up. That's what happens. You have to push back. You have to fight back.
And you can't make the assumption that you can't rest on your laurels.
No.
And that's the thing is my ancestors who lived in Eastern Europe and just kept and had it very well assimilated, kept saying, no, this country won't turn against me. No, this country won't turn against me.
Every time.
And then it does. And then it does. And there is, it is a very interesting time to be an American because, so we grew up being taught about a melting pot and a multicultural society as a good thing. And now I was ignorant growing up in Southern California that there was a third to a half of the country that found that repulsive. Yeah. I just thought we were living in this multicultural ideal because thankfully Los Angeles is it's a divide. All cities are divided, but I think what I've learned traveling the United States is in LA, the neighborhoods of ethnicities, there's more blending, right? There's blending, whereas I'm always shocked when I'm in a southern city or a Midwestern city where there's literally a train tracks and on one side is one people and on the other side is another. Like, I just never experienced that. So I just grew up in a world where I had Korean friends and Mexican friends and black friends And Persian friends, they call themselves Persian. Now, actually, I kind of, I was actually emailing with someone in Tehran this week
Wow.
who submitted. I do this dumb thing. Wait, I just distracted myself. So, like, I grew up in a multicultural world where you just assume I never assumed that it was an ethno state that represented one culture, one racial identity. So I just never got that. And I didn't know that there were a lot of people in the United States who grew up in a town where everyone was white and they just thought this is a white country and it's a Christian country and people who aren't white and Christian don't belong. And I didn't really learn that till like the last 10 years.
Right.
Probably it's been 10. But it was a real blow. Honestly, I was in this SoCal bubble of like, there's no picture of a sports team or a school picture or anything in my life that has been, is it the word unicultural instead of multicultural? Like everything we're just mixed up,
Right.
And that was part B of episode 520. Frederick and Jeff Shoot the Shit part 5. Hey, check the show notes for all of Fred's links and for the links of the film festivals and everything that I do. I will not go on and on, besides to tell you that right after this podcast, in the Discover Indie Film podcast feed, the final part of this 3 hour and 39 minute podcast will conclude with part C. Enjoy.